So let's say Trump. So let's say Trump doesn't run again. Convince Aunt Gloria that she should stick with you.
Well, I think Aunt Gloria should take a look. I think it's a legitimate thing to be concerned about anyone's age, including mine. I think that's totally legitimate. But I think the best way to make the judgment is to watch me. Am I slowing up? Am I don't have the same pace as her? And that old joke, everybody talks about the new 70s, 50s, and all that stuff. It could be. I'm a great respecter of fate. I could get a disease tomorrow. I could, drop dead tomorrow. But in terms of my energy level, in terms of how
he hasn't finished
much
the sentence.
I'm able to do, I think people should look and say, does he still have the same passion for what he's doing? And if they think I do and I can do it, then that's fine. If they don't, then they should vote against me. Not against me. They should encourage me not to go.
Wait for it.
But
wait for
that's not how I feel. I can't even say the age I'm going to be. I can't even get it out of my mouth.
I want to see what happens after that. You want to see the look of someone who is genuinely uncomfortable, and I might even say genuinely afraid. Just only look at the reporter's face right here. Only look at the reporter. The moment Joe Biden comes in for the smooch.
Vote against me.
Look at this.
Not against me. You should
look at
encourage me not to go.
Yeah, I'm interested.
But that's not how I feel. I can't even say the age I'm going to be. I can't even get it out of my mouth.
All right. It's funny, but it's not funny. It's funny, but it's not funny. You watch that. Maybe I'm not the best person to give this particular critique. The amount of sentences that are begun that are not finished. The amount of times he says, sentence fillers, things that you say while you're trying to formulate a coherent thought. It's not because I might do some of these things myself that I'm incapable of noticing them in others. Now I'm trying very hard to finish all of my sentences and to not have those things that you say to fill in space while you try to think things through.
So let's say Trump doesn't run again. Convince Aunt Gloria that she should stick with you.
Well, I think Aunt Gloria should take a look.
I think
it's a legitimate thing to be concerned.
I think it's a
about
legitimate thing
anyone's
to be concerned.
age, including mine.
Okay.
I think that's totally legitimate.
Finish that sentence.
But I think the best way to make the judgment is to watch me.
Watch me.
Am I slowing up? Am I don't have the same pace?
Yes.
I'm
totally incoherent.
And that old joke,
the old joke. What's the old joke, Joe?
Everybody talks about the new 70s, 50s, and all that stuff.
It's not a joke. It's an expression. 50 is the new 40. 40 is the new 30. It's not a joke. It's a maxim. You have to be able to remember it. And I'm not making fun of you for not being able to remember it. We're judging based on what we see, hear, the way you talk, the way you look, the way you seem to close your eyes mid-sentence during interviews.
It could be. I'm a great respecter of fate. I could.
For anybody who's ever been in this position, when you spend a lot of time on the interwebs, interviews, talking to the public, every now and again, you catch yourself about 30 seconds into a statement. You have no idea what you're saying. You have no idea where you're going. And you start panicking that you need to finish this sentence in a manner that's going to be coherent and not make you look like a bumbling buffoon. This has happened to me many times. I hope I passed the test. I can see it in Joe Biden right now. He knows he's going on for too long. He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what's going on right now, and he's got to get out of the situation. And the way to do that, grab your interlocutor by the shoulders and get up in his face in a real uncomfortable manner.
Get a disease tomorrow. I could, drop dead tomorrow. But in terms of my energy level, in terms of how much I'm able to do, I think people should look and say, does he still have the same passion for what he's doing?
We're talking energy, not passion, by the way. So, but If you don't think I'm good enough, don't vote against me. Wait a minute, don't do that. That doesn't make any sense.
And if they think I do and I can do it, then that's fine. If they don't, then they should vote against me.
No,
don't do that. Encourage me not to go.
Okay, change the subject.
But that's not how I feel. I can't even say the age I'm going to be. I can't even get it out of my mouth.
Oh, that's awkward for us all. People, I'm not as tan as I seem to look in the camera. The lighting is not particularly striking. How's everyone doing? 1:30 in the afternoon. Rumble's not working, somebody says. Hold on. Rumbles has to be working. 930 watching on Rumbles. No, we're good. We're good on Rumble. Because it's extremely confusing what I'm doing right now, and I'm trying to do it in a manner that doesn't let you appreciate how confused I am in my own head. We're running two separate streams right now. The Emergencies Act inquiry is ongoing all day on Viva Clips on YouTube and on Rumble in a separate stream. There's audio to that, which, because I'm running all of my streams off my stupid Mac laptop, whatever this thing is, my MacBook, I only have one output. So I hear the Emergencies Act inquiry audio as I'm streaming, unless I take the headphones off my ear, because I can't mute it. I can't shut the window down in StreamYard, otherwise I lose the stream. So for anybody who wants to watch and follow what's going on with the Emergencies Act inquiry, with comments, with a chat, so you can talk to people in real time, I pop in and out, Viva Clips on YouTube and a separate stream on Rumble. But this is today's stream, which is going to be not, I'll summarize what's going on with the Emergencies Act, more of the same crap and other stuff. Merrick Garland is supposed to be going live at 1:30, and now it's 1:36. And if he goes live, I'm going to hear that audio in the background as well. Then I'm going to bring that up, unless Merrick Garland is live already. And in which case, if he is, let me know. Now my computer seems to be freezing. Okay. Deb Paoluccio Gianomi thread artistry says, here it is. As a 7-year-old, I still feel like the same person inside my mind. I think that's his dilemma. It is hard to accept you are not able to do what you once could. It's funny. Well, now I'm hearing audio. Hold on. I hear audio somewhere, and I don't know where it's coming from. Okay. One of the streams just became unlive. Now I got to go back. Sorry about that. So we're going to do a stream today. Is it here? Okay, good. This is me. Oh, Viva, speaking of energy, how do you even practice for that somersault off the swing? Don't do it. The last time I did it, I hit my head, and I think I actually concussed myself. It's an easy trick, but it's easy to screw up also if you overshoot or undershoot. Okay, so that's what's happening. Simultaneous stream on Viva Clips and on a separate stream on Rumble for the Emergencies Act inquiry for anybody who wants to watch it. Today, Merrick Garland is supposed to be going live, and I don't know if he has gone live just yet. I will see if he has. And we'll see what the national emergency is. Other than that, we're going to be talking about some more fake news. Beyond fake news, journalists not doing their job, and what seems to be the absolute meltdown of all things of society. Euphemisms are being used to describe things that would otherwise shock the conscience, and euphemisms are being used in a manner so as to actually disguise what is going on so that people can rationalize to themselves what would never otherwise be rationalizable to themselves based on the euphemism that is governing public discourse. Rob A. in Rumble says, Viva, tell people to move to this chat if they are watching you live on Rumble. Well, and then that's what I want to do is also just put the link to Rumble. This might be too confusing. Maybe I'll just get a second computer and run the inquiry on a second computer. Okay, before we get into anything, before we get into the stories, and there's an 18-year-old tennis player suffers a heart attack. Nobody knows why. Doctors are baffled. And journalists aren't doing their job. The Euphemisms, Dylan Mulvaney, trans individual visiting President Biden at the White House to talk about girlhood. Fact checks off the charts. Fact checks about a certain spike in a certain condition that the fact checkers have to come in and say, okay, yeah, the number's there, but there's no correlation to whatever you want to correlate it to, so ignore it and move on. But before we do any of that, you may have noticed that this stream has a paid sponsor. It actually has two, and I'll get to both in due course. Story, we're going to do sponsor, story, sponsor, then we're moving over to Rumble. We're going to start with Home Title Lock. This is a product that I use, people. It's a product that I use that I've been verifying the necessity of with everybody that I discuss this with. It's a little known fact in America that one of the easiest forms of fraud and rampant form of fraud right now is people borrowing against the equity in other people's properties. You go to the land registry, whatever the clerk, you pull up a deed of sale, you pull up the title for a property, and you borrow money against it. You don't transfer the title of the property. You just borrow money against someone else's equity in someone else's house. It's what fraudsters are doing now. Actually, Home Title Lock sort of has a fraudster on the with the company to consult them because this fraudster engaged in this type of fraud. It's real. I called our home insurance people. They said it's real. I was fishing on the Deerfield Pier this weekend, speaking to a guy who works in construction. I asked him, it's real. Home Title Lock, what it does is it basically will notify you if anybody pulls your deed of sale in an attempt, because nobody's going to pull the deeds of sale of other people's properties for no good reason. They're going to pull it for a good reason, and it's going to be a bad reason. It notifies you if somebody tries to do that to your property. It notifies you, and it prevents anybody from borrowing against your property. $20 a month, $19.95 a month. Well worth it because people's homes typically are their biggest asset that they own, typically. If you go, by the way, and you use the promo code VIVA, HometitleLock.com, promo code VIVA, you will get a $100 value assessment that will verify the title of your property. And then on a monthly basis, you're going to get a notification and protection in the event that anybody pulls up your deed for the purposes of trying to borrow money against your house. I'm not saying it to say it. I have it. I use it. And so far, I haven't gotten a notification, which I like. So go to HometitleLock.com/Viva. Use my promo code VIVA, and you'll get a free, no obligation scan of your home title, $19.95 a month. If you need it, you know you need it. If you don't own a property, get out there, work your butts off, and get a home, build a family, and be happy. Okay, with that said, what do we want to start with? What do we want to start with? I saw a chat. We're going to start with another story that is incomprehensibly tragic. The discussion around it is incomprehensibly stifled, demonized. How am I, Vivi? Nature lover? I'm good. I'm just realizing I wore the same shirt last night, and I think it's going to show sweat because it's hot in this office. You know what? I'll bring this super chat up because it's going to segue into the subject, and also a good reminder. No medical advice, no legal advice, no election fortification advice. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. I thank you for the support. If you're so inclined, feel free. Rumble only takes 20% of Rumble rants. So if you want to support, that's the place to do it. But I appreciate it everywhere. No obligation, whatever. Janet S. Dr. John Campbell. Scotland is requiring an inquiry into increased deaths in babies during 2020-2021. Great sidebar. YouTube channel, Dr. John Campbell. I watched Dr. John Campbell. I reached out to him via Twitter DM. Hopefully he'll get back to me. And we can make that happen because I'd love to have Dr. John Campbell on. But on the subject of just like doctors are baffled. Doctors are baffled by things we're seeing now every day of the week. And it's not because people are reporting on them more. It seems to be because they're happening more. It's happening more, but then you got the fact checkers telling you why it's not a big deal that it's happening more, or that it's happening more, but don't come to any conclusions there. Don't do too much of that thinking for yourself. It's not good for you. Might get you deplatformed. This is the latest story. It's going to shock you. High school tennis player. This is out of Indiana. And then you're going to say, where are the journalists? Someone on Twitter referred to me as a journalist. I'm an analyst. I'm an analyst and a talkative individual who likes to get to the bottom of things. Maybe that's what a journalist always meant. It's in diet and fitness, by the way. That's beautiful. I didn't notice that the first 15 times I read this article. The date, it was October 20th. We're the 24th now, so just last week. High school tennis player's teammate and coach save his life after sudden cardiac arrest of a high school teenager. Just these are normal things now. If you think they're abnormal, you're the abnormal one. When Drew Strasser collapsed, his teammate Jake performed CPR and his coach used a defibrillator to help. Their quick action likely saved his life. I won't say likely. When someone's heart stops beating, it's not going to start. And by the way, by the sounds of this article, it wasn't arrhythmia. It wasn't palpitations. It was a sudden heart attack. Drew Strasser, 18, had just finished his warm-up laps at tennis practice when he lurched toward the wall to brace himself before slumping down unconscious. His teammate and friend, Jake, jumped into action performing CPR while a coach, Jesse Atkinson, rushed to get an automated external defibrillator, AED, to jolt his heart. Their quick action likely saved his life. Listen to this. I never would have thought it would be my kid. An 18-year-old kid, says his mother, Linnea Strasser, 38, of Rochester, Indiana today. His friend, his 18-year-old teammate who works as a lifeguard, luckily he handled the situation right. Nobody knows how you're going to react to a situation like that, and he did what he needed to do. And that's the kid in the hospital. Early practice ends in an emergency. Okay, so let's see this. He wakes up early, goes to practice. It wouldn't have been as likely that they could have saved his life without the AED had he not be inside the school in close proximity to it. Ambulance took him to a hospital within an hour. They stabilized him. His parents wondered if Drew Strasser experienced a seizure, so his mom called the principal to try to find out more information. The EMT thought it might have been a heart attack. Once the Strassers got to the hospital, they received a little more information. They told us, no, he didn't have a heart attack. It was that he was in sudden cardiac arrest. Linnea Strasser said, it was very traumatic, scary, scary morning. Sudden cardiac arrest is defined as the abrupt lost, what's up with the typos in this? Abrupt loss of heart function, breathing, and consciousness. Whereas a heart attack is when blood flow to a part of the heart is blocked. So it's even worse. His parents couldn't believe what was happening, yada, yada. Hey, his parents couldn't believe what was happening, but I think a lot of people out there can believe what was happening. The kid's 18 years old. He's from Indiana. He plays tennis. The interesting thing is now when parents are 38 years old to, let's just say 55 years old, sometimes you can pretty much guess that the parent might have more of a social media footprint on certain platforms than the kids. 18 is pretty young. I mean, 18 is pretty young and pretty old. They probably have a social media footprint. There's homework to be done here for anybody who wants to do the homework. The first question I had was, okay, Indiana. Joshy G says, we had a 15-year-old die on the football field like 5 years back in my small town. It's something that happens during times of physical exertion. Absolutely. I recall incidents of it happening as I grew up. Few and far in between, oftentimes followed by an investigation, oftentimes followed by a lawsuit if, for example, they were making football players do strenuous workouts on a hot summer's day, hot, humid summer day, heat stroke. Heat stroke is different than sudden cardiac arrest. This is no medical advice. I'm just reading a chat. Brody Dover. If your heart stops, the AED won't do anything because that'll be a PEA. You need to tell me what a PEA is. AEDs will shock ventricular fibrillation and a few other arrhythmia. What is a PEA in that context? We are live on Rumble as well. So, it used to be that there were journalists who would say, okay, by the way, this story is not about the miracle that is the AED. Funny thing, AED in French is Association des étudiants en droit. I was the president of the AED in French, Law Student Association. AED, the defibrillator. It's the defibrillator. You see them in back. The story here is not the miraculous nature of a defibrillator. It's not the fast thinking of this dude's best friend for whom he will be, indebted and grateful for the rest of his life. It's not. It could be about knowing CPR and knowing first aid so that if anything like this happens, you know what to do. The story of this is it's another 18-year-old kid suffering another heart issue, and people don't seem to be asking the proper questions. The journalists don't seem to be delving into social media footprints that might find explanations. But first question I had, Indiana. Okay. Let me just get the link here. Indiana. What's the immunization schedule of Indiana like? Is it mandatory in schooling for the Rona? So first things first. This appears to be the Indiana required and recommended school immunizations. First question for anybody who's interested. What's the status of the Rona jab in Indiana? Well, if we look here, we can see under the recommended sections, COVID-19, as of kindergarten to 5th grade, is recommended. The COVID-19 is recommended grade 6 to 11. And for grade 12, COVID-19 is recommended. If you look over here, it says COVID-19 vaccine is recommended for all students 5 years of age and older per CDC and FDA's emergency use authorization. Review required after FDA full approval. I'm sure it's going to not become recommended after FDA required. I'm sure it's not going to be required after the CDC just approved to add it to the list of routine the immunization schedule. So Indiana, it's not mandatory for kids, but it's recommended. Another question is this. Can I ask the question? Has this kid been vaccinated? The mother's giving interviews. The mother's making contact. Did anybody think to ask that question? Or is it rude? Is it rude and impolite in the context of a story about an 18-year-old suffering a massive cardiac incident? It's rude to ask that question. And now I say that, and I'm being a bad boy today because I'm having a Red Bull, but I'm also going to have my greens in a second. It's rude. It's rude to ask. It's conspiratorial to ask the question. And it's not like people are reading that article not thinking it. So they're not. It's not that they're giving information that might burst people's bubbles. It might quell theories. They're not asking an obvious question, providing information that they know people reading this story are looking for. And they're doing a disservice to everybody, to the viewers, to the victims, to potential victims. If the answer is no, this kid's intact, okay, well, people are going to have to find other dots to connect. If the answer is no, this kid was not intact, people have to start answering some questions, and people have to start facing some realities, because it's not a question of protecting someone who's already been a potential victim. It's a question of making sure that we can act accordingly, potentially, hypothetically, to prevent this from happening to another person in the future. Don't ask, don't tell. I get that. That was the old. But this is we pulled this up last night as a fact check. We didn't really get that far into it. I'm gonna do it now. The increase myocarditis graph fact check. Listen to this. We're going to see if I can find that article. Oh yeah, a visual graph. Let's see this. Is this the one that we had yesterday? Yeah, we go. This is what we had yesterday. So you've seen people sharing information on social media, sharing screen grabs, clips, yada yada. This is how many Varus incident reports were for the last 20 years. This is how many there have been in the last 2 years. Here's incidents of myocarditis over the last 20 years. It's McCullough, not McCullough. Yeah, it's McCullough, Peter McCullough, I think, talking about it. This is how many incidents of myocarditis there typically are per million. This is what we have in the last 2 years. Trust, but even don't trust. Verify. So there was this. This is one of the graphs. Who's this from? Lars. Are we going to be able to get this? You can't see what I'm seeing. I'm just going to go to see who the account is from. Lars Svensson, philosopher, guitarist. Here, I'll show you this. You have to check profiles just to see, not to undermine based on nothing, but this is Lars's profile. Okay. Philosopher, guitarist, analyst. Puts out a tweet. The tweet says this. Where'd the tweet go? And nothing to see here. All myopericarditis reported to VAERS by year. All vaccines. 2010 to 2021. And then you got, I think it's in reports of and it's in thousands. Fact checkers have to come in, obviously, to fact check this. So let's just see what the fact checkers have to say about it. And you're going to understand this, by the way. Fact checkers are wordsmiths of the devil. That's my, I mean, that might go on a shirt. Fact checkers are wordsmiths of the devil. I don't consider myself to be a fact checker, by the way. So hashtag confession to projection, which is already on a shirt. No. And I don't wordsmith. We know intent. We know spirit. We know essence. We know what people understand. When someone sees that graph, they're not saying necessarily that spike from under 1,000 to near 10,000, 12,000 is directly only and necessarily correlated to one thing. Some might be thinking it. Nobody's showing correlation yet. We just want to know whether or not the number is accurate. So fact checkers have to come in and fact check. Fact check graphs showing increase in myopericarditis after COVID-19 vaccine rollout does not confirm link. Of course it doesn't. Nobody said it did. Are the numbers accurate? A visual showing reports of myocarditis and pericarditis increasing in the United States in tandem with the country's COVID-19 vaccine rollout has gone viral online. Is it false? Are the numbers wrong? That's all we want to know. Fact check. You can draw your inferences. You can negate other people's arguments. We need to know the facts. Are the numbers accurate or are the numbers not accurate? The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, is investigating the cases, but says a relationship has not been confirmed. Okay, that means the number's accurate. The number's accurate, relationship not yet known. Social media users have shared a red bar chart showing total yearly reports to VAERS of myocarditis and inflammation of the heart muscle and pericarditis, inflammation to the heart's sac. Here, 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 and here. Thank you. It's such good work. The data includes reports after all vaccines from the years 2010 to 2021 after all vaccines and appears to show more than 11,000 reports for 2021 alone compared to very low numbers in previous years. Okay. Is the number accurate? Reuters, you wordsmiths for the devil. Captioning the bar chart in a post, one social media user wrote, here, how straight, yada, yada. Did you notice it? Okay, thanks. Thanks for attacking what the correlation that people are drawing when you're supposed to be fact-checking the number. However, there have not, so here we go. However, there have not been this many reports of myocarditis and pericarditis to VAERS after COVID-19 vaccination, according to the CDC and Reuters analysis of the database. The claims that the cases have risen drastically after COVID-19 vaccination also misses context. Hold on. Just see what the chat is saying here. I'm trying to understand what's the point here. However, there have not been this many reports of myocarditis and pericarditis to VAERS after COVID-19 vaccination, according to the CDC and Reuters analysis of the database. The claim that cases have risen drastically after the vaccination also misses context. Please give us the context. I don't understand this statement. VAERS, managed by the CDC, documents suspicious reactions to COVID-19 vaccines to detect possible safety issues. It is true that since 1990, most of the myocarditis and pericarditis reports to VAERS were made after the U.S. COVID-19 vaccination program began. It is true that since 1990, since 1990, 90 to 2000, 2000 to 2010, 2010 to 2012, 32 years over the last 3 decades, confirmed by Reuters. Most of the myopericarditis reports were made after the COVID-19 vaccination program began. Oh, okay. So it's true that most have occurred in the last 2 years compared to the last 32 years. However, there have been far fewer than 11,000 reported for 2021 so far. However, there have been far fewer than, let's hear this. The graph originally published shows reports of the condition after all available vaccines. OpenVAERS has yet to respond to Reuters' request to detail their search methodology, but a Reuters analysis of VAERS entries for myocarditis and pericarditis found fewer than 3,500 instances. So it's only more than 3 times more than previous years. Oh my goodness. 3,500 instances. The CDC confirmed to Reuters a total of 2,000 reports of myocarditis in VAERS for all vaccines. So there's only 3,500 recently compared to 2,300 for all vaccines over the course of 31 years. Oh my goodness. Of those, nearly 2,000 cases concerned people aged 30 and younger who received COVID vaccinations. Oh. The CDC and FDA investigated the reports and, through interviews with medical providers and medical record reviews, confirmed 1,005 cases met the criteria. The CDC's case and definitions can be found here. Oh, okay. So they've whittled it down through definition, through hook and crook, whatever. They've whittled it down to 1,000 from one vaccine. They're confirming it. They're confirming that 1,000 cases met the criteria. Okay. Most cases were reported after vaccination with Pfizer or Moderna, particularly in male adolescents and young adults. However, a link to the vaccines has not been confirmed. Wordsmiths for the devil. I'm sorry, but I thought they just confirmed that 1,000 fit the definition, down from the 3,000 total, down from the 3,500 that they rounded it down to, and not 11,000 based on their own search criteria. Oh my goodness. Verdict. Misleading. There were 2,320 total reports of myocarditis in VAERS from October to date, according to the CDC. Reports of myocarditis have increased since the rollout of the vaccines, with 1,000 cases confirmed. But a link to the shots has not been established. So it's true, but not as true as the tweets say. True, but not as true. Missing context. Yeah, it's missing context. It's missing cover your butt context is what that is. That's the Reuters fact check. And someone's going to tell me that they are not the wordsmiths of the devil in real time. It's not 11,000 because we're just going to go ahead and use our own search terms, which we're not going to disclose to you. Trust us. The inquiry is starting back up. So I'm going to put these over here. You're just going to have to trust us. It's we've used our search terms. We've whittled it down by a quarter. And from there, we've whittled it down a further. But yeah, and it's still up, by the way. It's still up a lot. Just not as much as you said. So missing context. Oh, yeah, and that thing, we haven't been able to establish a causal link, but we recognize it. So, oh, Garland is on. Well, hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can get Garland. I thought I had that in the backdrop. Statements from HH. No, that's not it. Live Merrick Garland. Let me see here. Live. Hit the live button. Oh, Merrick Garland's on here. Okay, let me see here. Let's see if I can listen to two things at one time.
Everyone in our country, and we will defend the integrity of our institutions. Before I turn the podium over to Deputy Attorney General Monaco, I want to recognize the FBI, the National Security Division, and the U.S. Attorney's offices for their extraordinary work on these cases. Now, Deputy Attorney General Monaco.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Attorney General. The Department of Justice will not tolerate threats from a foreign power to the rights of Americans or to our nation's institutions. As the Attorney General has laid out, the cases unsealed today take place against a backdrop of malign activity from the People's Republic of China that includes espionage, harassment, obstruction of our justice system, and unceasing efforts to steal sensitive U.S. technology.
Is this new?
In the words of our intelligence community, China seeks to be a major power on the world stage.
It is.
And to challenge the United States in multiple
It is
arenas.
doing that right now.
Today's
in multiple
cases
arenas.
make clear that Chinese agents will not hesitate to break the law and to violate international norms in the process. Two of those cases, in particular, show the lengths they are willing to go in pursuit of unfair advantage. But the defendants charged today met their match in the agents, analysts, and prosecutors of the Department of Justice. According to one indictment unsealed today, 2 intelligence officers attempted, through bribery and espionage, to obstruct the federal criminal prosecution of a global telecommunications company headquartered in the PRC. The defendants attempted to bribe someone they believed was an insider to steal the prosecutor's playbook.
He was a mole.
Including who the prosecutors were meeting with and what they would argue in court. All so that the company could unlawfully gain an edge and undermine the government's case. But the insider flipped the script on the defendants
We're gonna
by
make a movie
working
about this.
not for them, but for Team America. The defendants'
She actually just
desperate
said Team
efforts
America.
to sabotage this prosecution
Oh my! Have they
exposed
not
the
seen
PRC's
Team America?
government's commitment to tilting the playing field in favor of Chinese corporations abroad. Far from accepting the rule of law,
It's a parody. They become
PRC
parody.
agents sought to use bribes to help the Chinese company obstruct and evade it. This case exposes the interconnection between PRC intelligence officers and Chinese companies, and it demonstrates once again why such companies, especially in the telecommunications industry, shouldn't be trusted to securely handle our sensitive personal data and communications. In another matter announced today, individuals associated with the Chinese government
Why would this
allegedly
be such a massive
continued
emergency
its
if it's
relentless
not
campaign
something of a
to
publicity
gain
stunt?
access to our technology, recruit agents, and attempt to stifle the free exchange of ideas. According to the indictment, over
Let's
a
hear it.
10-year period,
Mhm.
the defendants and others used a fake think tank to try to recruit a former federal law enforcement and state homeland security official and others through a variety of means, including with all expense paid trips to China. In each case, though, the plots failed
Oh.
because the men and women of the Department of Justice defended our institutions and thwarted the persistent threat posed by agents of the PRC. I want to thank the agents, analysts,
So
and
this is a
prosecutors
massive
in all
press
3 of
conference
these
to
cases
announce
for their
indictments
tireless work
for.
on behalf of the American people.
Mhm.
And now I'll turn the podium over to FBI Director Wray.
Oh, Ray, let's see what he has to say today.
Well, thank you. First, let me begin by pointing out that 10 of the 13 charged individuals we're discussing today are Chinese intelligence officers and Chinese government officials.
When have they ever held a press
They're
conference like this
charged in
for
3
such?
different cases that might seem at first glance to be about unrelated issues. However, and this is something that I've been talking about for years now, each of these cases lays bare the Chinese government's flagrant violation of international laws as they work to project their authoritarian view around the world, including within our own borders. In all 3 of these cases, and frankly, in thousands of others, we've found the Chinese government threatening established democratic norms and the rule of law as they work to undermine U.S. economic security and fundamental human rights, including those of Americans. We also see a coordinated effort across the Chinese government to lie, cheat, and steal their way into unfairly dominating entire technology sectors, putting competing U.S. companies out of business. As I've pointed out
This doesn't even
before,
have to do
their
with-
economic
this is-
assault and their rights
okay.
violations are part of the same problem.
I don't really.
They both flout the rule of law. And one of the purposes of the Chinese government's repression is to make it easier to steal our innovation. They try to silence anyone who fights back against their theft, companies, politicians, individuals, just as they try to silence anyone who fights back against their other aggressions. And in our cases today, we've got yet another example, their attempted obstruction of an independent judicial process to give underhanded help to one of their companies accused of breaking our intellectual property laws and deny justice to that company's victims. Since I started as FBI director, I've been repeatedly sounding the alarm about the Chinese government's disregard for fair business practices, for international norms,
so they're going to go to
and
war
for the
with
rule of
China.
law. The FBI has been reaching out and warning, and more importantly, helping the communities the Chinese government targets. Businesses of every size and in almost every sector, from agriculture to green tech to semiconductors, the Chinese American community, academia, and state and local governments, and our foreign partners around the world. Today, every one of those partners is awake and alert to that threat in a way that just wasn't always true 5 years ago. And our
All
success
right, well, this is boring.
bringing
Do we want to
more and more
continue listening to
partners
this?
fight highlights something else important. Beijing may think our adherence to the rule of law is a weakness, but they're wrong.
Yeah, can you imagine what
We're
Beijing
disrupting
thinks
Chinese
about
government
America's
criminality and aggression,
respect
not
of the
just
rule of law?
while adhering to our values, but by adhering to our values. Our democratic and legal processes arm us with weapons that China doesn't have, among others, real partners and allies. And our partnerships help protect the American people every day.
What is this? Is a public service
Today's
announcement for the
cases are no
Biden
different.
government?
We couldn't have accomplished this work without our foreign partners and the U.S. academic community in particular. One reason we've had so much success bringing partners to this fight
Can you imagine?
against
They
the Chinese
sold
government's
this
aggression
like it was going to be.
is that they see
Well, some people
through
thought it was going to be an announcement of
Beijing's
World War
hypocrisy.
III.
For example, they see the type of CCP hypocrisy on display in our fox hunt case today. Yet another case where the Chinese government officials and co-conspirators mercilessly harassed a naturalized U.S. citizen to try to force him to return to China against his will. They accused the victim in this case of embezzling money, but two of the subjects who targeted him, two of the
Yeah, that's
defendants
a good question. Why
charged today,
It's such a terrible country, China.
are
but
themselves actually involved in a scheme to launder millions of dollars.
all of
And
a
as
sudden,
if that weren't
Dems are the
enough
party of law
evidence
and
that
order,
the
people,
real
right in
purpose
time for
of
November
their
next week.
operation was political.
Oh boy.
They gave their victim a deadline to return by. The 20th CCP Congress earlier this month.
Okay, now the other hearing is back up.
They're focused
So
on
now I
repression,
hear the Emergencies
not
Act
law
inquiry
enforcement.
and this guy.
But our partners also see the CCP's broader hypocrisy. The fact that while the CCP claims to stand for sovereignty and non-interference in other states' affairs, what the Chinese government actually does is interfere with sovereign
There's an
governments
internet
around
problem
the
at
world
the
whenever
Emergencies Act
doing
inquiry.
so suits Beijing. Here, interfering with our independent judiciary, violating
Make it
both
stop.
our sovereignty and the norms of
Chat,
police
one or
conduct to
two.
run
One, end
lawless
it, move on.
intimidation campaigns
Two,
here
continue listening
our
to
backyard.
the FBI.
and corrupting our
know
academic
your
freedom
arguments.
to further their campaign of repression and theft.
One,
The FBI is going
stay,
to continue
two,
to
what did I say?
what
Was it
we
one
mean
leave, two
and
stay?
mean what we say. So our partners, both here and abroad,
One
many of whom
leave,
tell us they're
two
battling
stay.
Chinese aggression themselves, know they can depend on us
This is
against the
oh,
Chinese
man.
government and countless other dangers.
Okay. Look,
Finally,
it's gonna,
let me urge
gonna be
any
boring.
person or company being targeted or approached by the Chinese government to
Oh, okay. I'm gonna put that on. I'm gonna put it on pause. I don't think we need to watch this anymore. This is. We can catch up on that later. StreamYard. This is the wrong StreamYard. Let me go to the other one, and we're gonna move this on over to Rumble in about 2 seconds. Or not 2 seconds. Give it 5 minutes. Let me get the window back. This one, not okay. Sorry, guys. I need to find the window in the background here. All right, there we go. Yeah, so we'll take it off. We'll take it off. Excruciatingly painful to listen to. I concur. Whoever in the chat said that I was using an old face mask thingy thing, you were right. Oh, God. Okay. Put these over here. We're gonna not even use them. I'll get this back on. All right. They're having internet issues, by the way, in the Canadian hearings. Do a poll, Viva. Forget it. It's too late. We'll live with it. You can go watch. We can go watch that later. Set up the link, please. The link to Rumble is what you mean? Here, I'll get the link, and we're going to move over in a second. Another chat said they've lost faith in medicine. It's just, how many people have lost faith in medicine as a result of what's been going on? Barb Ariane says, "You're actually killing me, Viva. They want emergency broadcast system alerts and total lockdowns by any means." All right, well, before we go on over, because Biden is going to be the second half of this stream, go on over to Rumble. But before we go on over to Rumble, second sponsor of today's video, by the way, another product that I actually use. It's not something that I don't use. I spent a half an hour on the phone with the doctor behind the company, Field of Greens. Everybody's supposed to eat 5-6 servings of vegetables a day. Most people don't. Most people don't get the power-packed nutrients that come in vegetables, fruits, etc. Field of Greens is not a supplement. It's not, an extract. It's powdered, desiccated greens. Gets all the powerful antioxidants, nutrients of vegetables in them. 1 scoop is 1 serving of vegetables. So if you're not particularly healthy, you can be slightly more healthy, although everyone should be healthy, exercise, eat their greens. But when you can't, and even when you can, desiccated greens, it's like beef jerky, but of the vegetable nature. It's a food. It's not a supplement. It's not an extract. USDA organic approved, made in America, and it doesn't taste bad. It looks like swamp water when you make it, by and large, because it sort of is swamp water with all of the nutrients, antioxidants, all the good stuff that vegetables and fruits have. It tastes good. It goes down easy, and it's a good thing to do. It's healthier than having a soft drink, which I should not be doing. And it's a good way to get your dose of fruits and vegetables if you don't eat enough. And even if you do, it's a good way to get a little more. Goes down smooth, tastes sweet, tastes delicious, and you wouldn't even know what you were drinking except for what it looked like. Fieldofgreens.com, the promo code, you get 15% off your first order if you use promo code VIVA, and 10% off a subscription if you do it. And it is actually good. It's actually good. Feels like you're doing something good. It's a better habit than a Red Bull. And I should probably practice what I preach more often than not. Okay. Now, everybody, Joe Biden, stop with the swamp water equation. Well, when you stir it together, you're going to know what I mean. It's a dark green. It's not water soluble, which means it's like you're mixing actual fruits and vegetables of a powdered nature into water, but it goes down easy and it's good and it's healthy. Hot greens are good. Fresh vegetables are good. Vita Vegemine. And yet, don't mix it with vodka, people. Do not mix it with vodka. That's a strong warning not to. Fieldofgreens.com, home title lock. Thank you very much for having the courage, the audacity to sponsor a channel of the fringed minority who hold unacceptable views. All right, everybody, move on over to Rumble. We're going to do this now because we're going to carry on the discussion over on Rumble, and it's going to get... You thought it was ridiculous with journalists not asking the questions, with people not being allowed to have the discussion, with fact checkers whittling things down through wordsmithing of the devil. Well, if fact checkers are the wordsmiths of the devil, politicians are the wordsmiths of the devil as well. You go from wordsmithing through fact checks to crafting debate and actually controlling thought through the terms that are used in discussion. And we're going to see how what we're using as euphemisms right now actually allow people to convince themselves to tolerate, and I dare say even promote, what would be unconscionable by any other name. Head on over to Rumble, people, and I'm going to remove the link here and go over now. Let's see if this is working on Rumble. There's a Rumble rant, and it comes from Tony R100. Viva, I left a few comments on last night's stream on Rumble. There was an incorrect statement regarding the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. Happy to chat sometime to clarify. Clarify it now. I don't know what the If it came from, I think I might know what you're talking about. If it was something Allison said, clarify it now. Let me see if I can catch that comment. All right, but now we're not talking about the jibby jabs anymore. We're talking about biological males meeting with the president to talk about the joys of girlhood and the absolute erasure of biological women from discussion that, under the normal run of things, concerned them and only them. So Dylan Mulvaney, for those of you who don't know, is a TikToker influencer, social media personality, who's now risen to fame. Is a stand-up comedian, I think. Claim to fame now is having produced something called, his documenting his days of girlhood. And I say this with no judgment to transgender individuals, to each their own, to the extent that what they're doing affects them and only them. That's what adults are allowed to do. Make their own decisions, make their own mistakes, live their own lives. When it comes to the situations where one person's decisions affect other people, that's where we start running into the philosophical, theological arguments of one person's rights trumping the rights of another person. A biological male deciding they want to do whatever they want to do to their bodies, transition to whatever they identify as, fine. Live and let live, to each their own. To go from there to a world in which biological men who statistically, biologically, chemically, glandularly, muscularly, bone density, benefit from certain advantages, who then say, well, as a result of my decision of transitioning, as it's so called, I want to be allowed to compete in sports that were designed for or that were limited to biological females. Then we have a philosophical, legal, ethical problem. Does one person's choice for their own body, for their own life, get to deprive another person of their own rights through no fault, through no decision of their own? Should someone procure a biological advantage from their own decisions that other people of a biological nature cannot choose their way in or out of? Most people, with a sense of justice and a sense of respect for other, would say, no. You want to change your body, all the better. More power to you. You want to change your body and then go compete in sports where the people against whom you're competing, the women, the biological women against whom you're competing, never had the choice to grow up with more muscle mass, bone density, average height, higher, average wingspan, more. They never had that choice. They never made a choice. And as a result of your choice, they are now seeing their rights, which they fought long and hard for over decades. They're now seeing those rights compromised. It should not be a very complicated discussion, yet it is. And now you've got Dylan Mulvaney, TikToker, documenting, what is it called? This one is called Day 222, talking to the president at the White House with now this trans White House. Now, and it was the joys of girlhood. Let me see if I can hear this here.
You know that phrase, I fear I may have girl bossed too close to the sun? Well, that's how.
Girl bossed too close to the sun.
It's day 222 of being a girl. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to the White House to speak to the President of the United States. You know that phrase, I fear I may have girl bossed too close to the sun? Well, that's how I feel today, because I get to sit down with Joe Biden.
And by the way, the shirt says, not don't mess with trans adults. Don't mess with trans kids. So this individual, all the rights in the world to do what he wants, what Mulvaney wants, is now promoting what should be done to children.
Now this news, and I get to ask him a few questions surrounding trans issues in the United States and talk to him about my transness. And I really just want to represent my community the best that I can. And you know what? As silly as I am on here, I'm ready to step up and show that trans people, we're not going anywhere.
That's never part of the discussion, Dylan.
And that trans kids, they deserve a fighting chance to be their true selves. Okay. Oh my God, I'm running late. Let's go. And y'all are obviously wondering what I'm going to wear to meet the president. Here you go. It's the trans flag colors. Cute, right? It's the heels. Okay.
It's cute, eh? The heels, like the impression that Dylan seems to have of women is the most regret. It's like reducing women to heels. I mean, that's I guess the bottom line takeaway.
You're gonna be great. I love you. Let's go. Come on. Do you think I just knock on the front door?
We can stop it here. So Dylan Mulvaney goes to meet with the president. And then the president was asked some questions. Dylan Mulvaney asked the president some questions, one of which was regarding, I don't want to mangle it. Let me see if I can get the actual quote here. Son of a beasting. I had the link up in the back. Let me just get the quote. Won't be accused of misquoting. Here we go. This is it. Here.
Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming healthcare?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong.
Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming healthcare?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that.
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. Not even the parents for the kid?
As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong.
Now, this is a very important lesson of the day, people. Understand the terms of a question when you're asking the question. And this is not to be the wordsmith of the devil. This is to make sure that you understand the scope and extent of the terms being used in a question that you're being asked. Gender-affirming healthcare. Now, I'll read my tweet on it. It says, when one appreciates that in this context, gender-affirming healthcare includes hormone blockers for developing children and double mastectomies on young girls, top surgery, as the euphemism goes, one can truly appreciate the evil we are witnessing. Now, some people, we're gonna steel man both sides of the argument. Some people are going to say gender-affirming healthcare does not only refer to hormone blockers, puberty pausers, as some of the doctors are calling it, or double mastectomies. It doesn't only refer to puberty blockers and double mastectomies. It also refers to therapy, consultation, doctors, mental wellness. So it's not only that, but it necessarily includes that. It necessarily includes that because that's part of the public discussion right now. Gender-affirming healthcare is not just a question of psychological, psychiatric consultations, consulting someone to talk to come to grips with, to try to, in as much as possible, accept or move through or move on. Gender-affirming healthcare includes both that and irreparable changes and surgeries to the human body. Joe Biden might not understand very much at this point in time. He gets asked a question. And might not understand what is meant by gender-affirming healthcare. It sounds innocuous enough. It sounds almost like nothing. It sounds beautiful. Gender-affirming health. How can anyone say no to gender-affirming healthcare? Well, when you know what it involves, you can certainly take a step back and say, hold on a second. Gender-affirming healthcare does not just talk about psychological treatments. It includes puberty blockers, hormone therapy, what they call those little puberty blockers that just put your puberty on pause, as the Boston Children's Hospital professionals say. It includes top surgery and it includes bottom surgery. And for anyone who hasn't seen the images, the graphic, horrifying images of what the bottom surgery is next level graphic imagery. An adult wants to do it, to each their own. I mean, you're going to have the medical discussion as to whether or not a doctor should do this to someone who even asks for it as an adult. Separate issue. There's doctors out there who perform all sorts of cosmetic surgery of greater or lesser degrees of severity. An adult, one thing. When we're talking about gender-affirming healthcare with kids, Dylan Mulvaney's shirt says, don't mess with trans kids. Let them be who they want to be. And that means gender affirming healthcare. And Joe Biden says, nobody should get in the way of that. Not authorities, not the state. Does he know what it looks like? Has he looked at the top surgery? Double mastectomies. I interviewed Chloe Cole on this channel. Chloe Cole, for those of you who don't know, is now an 18-year-old woman who, when she was between the ages of, let's just say 11 to 15, was suffering from certain mental issues, was diagnosed with autism later on, was diagnosed with a bunch of stuff, treated with all sorts of medications. At one point, decided that she was trans and began, pressuring her, not pressuring, but rather decided she's trans, needed to be a boy. It was the only way that she could survive life. Went to see doctors who very, very proactively encouraged the procedures, ended up with a double mastectomy at the age of 15. That is not a breast reduction. And by the way, when I got into the details with Chloe, even I was sort of saying this, I was shocked, not in a moral sense, I was shocked in what goes into that surgery. People think double mastectomy is, they just cut off some tissue. In order to make a young girl look like a young boy, it's not just a question of removing the fatty tissue from the breasts. They have to reposition the nipple. And so it involves a removal of the nipple, removal of the tissue, removal of the glands, removal of the muscle, and then repositioning it. And Chloe was saying, she was explaining how nobody went into any meaningful detail about the consequences, the long-term, lifelong consequences, the healing time. Chloe said that she's still having issues because of the surgery, because of the repositioning of parts. I mean, it's beyond what you can imagine. Now Joe Biden comes out because he's riding the thing of the times, invites trans online TikTok super celebrity Dylan Mulvaney to the White House to talk about girlhood with him. Forget actual girlhood. I mean, in a sense, I guess this is talking about the trans issue and not talking about girlhood or womanhood. So Dylan Mulvaney should be a spokesperson for trans rights. Dylan Mulvaney asks Joe Biden if he believes in gender-affirming healthcare for kids. Did he say for kids? Actually, I don't want to make a mistake here. Hold on. Let me just hear again. He did not say for kids. He said, do states have the right to ban gender-affirming healthcare? So, not specifying children, but the question, it is baked into the question, especially since Dylan Mulvaney is there to protect trans kids. Let me just see if I can close this down here. Now I've lost my window again. Hold on. I can hear it through the headphones, but I can't find my window now. Euphemism, fake news. This looks like where we are. Yeah, this is where we are. Okay. And Joe Biden says yes. And now we're going to get into a world where it's called gender-affirming healthcare to allow children to make these decisions. And now there was a Rumble rant which talks about the issues that this is causing with actual families, where basically the government owns your kids. The government now says what the kid can do to themselves, even in the absence of parental consent. The Rumble rant is from Courtmocker. Justice Sheila O'Connell has ruled that a mom and dad will share custody of a 4-year-old biological boy who said at various times that he wanted to be a girl, but said neither can be forced their preference. Justice Sheila O'Connell has ruled that a mom and dad will share custody of a 4-year-old biological boy who said at various times that he wanted to be a girl, but said neither can be forced their preference. That's a $20 Rumble rant. Thank you very much. Now, Joe Biden says it, but it's now going to be no state should enact laws. Let's just say you even believe in gender-affirming healthcare, whatever that. I mean, we know what that means. It's a euphemism for some form of bodily, what would otherwise be called genital mutilation. Let's stop using euphemisms. The breasts, female breasts, are technically defined as genitals. Penis is a genital. Gender-affirming healthcare, to the extent that it includes suppressing the development of those parts, removing them, forever compromising a developing child's ability to fully develop, it's a euphemism for a form of genital mutilation. And you got President Biden a week and a half before the midterms taking this. It would have been so radical to even think that anybody would have been saying these things a decade ago. And now it's just mainstream. And I think there was more to it. I think there was more. We're actually living in a world. Look at this. This is going to be. It's going to blow your mind. Actually, we're just living in a world of euphemisms and denying reality. You remember when Rachel Levine was declared to be a 4-star admiral? Rachel Levine, transgender health officer from Pennsylvania. I gotta tell you, again, could not care less about that aspect of the identity. What I'm actually more shocked about is her performance as whatever chief medical officer, I think it was Pennsylvania. The fact that she took her mother out of long-term care facilities during COVID when it was running rampant in the facilities that they were neglecting, protects her mother while the citizens that she's supposed to be representing dies. She was appointed 4-star admiral of the United States Public Health Service Commission Corp, a non-military branch that wears uniform nonetheless. Appointed 4-star admiral. What did Rachel Levine do to earn this? I don't know. The person before her, who was the previous 4-star general, admiral, whatever, did not have military training, but at the very least had, call it military experience, worked in defense, worked with DARPA. What did Rachel Levine have as credentials? Politics, and identity politics at that. She certainly didn't have a track record of performance, track record of hypocrisy. I'll pull up that article afterwards. Are we looking at this? But this is coming from HHS. HHS, for those of you who don't know, Health and Human Services. Statements by officials of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services commemorating the first openly transgender 4-star officer and the first female 4-star admiral of the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corp. First openly transgender 4-star officer, factually correct. This is Health and Human Services saying, and also this biological male, born a biological male, and I don't know what stage of transition Rachel Levine is at. First openly transgender, first female 4-star admiral of the U.S. PHSC. How is this not misogyny? A biological male has taken forever what would have been the first time a biological female. You make the distinction for a reason. I mean, presumably you make the distinction for a reason to show that glass ceilings have been breached. The first female to ever be a 4-star admiral of the U.S. Public Health Service Commission is a biological male. And you've got Health and Human Services stating what is biologically, factually incorrect as a matter of fact. This is from the government. I mean, who's the guy? Bezmarov? Forget his name. This is ideological infiltration of the highest order, from the highest levels of government down. Health and Human Services coming out with a public statement saying that a biological male is the first female 4-star admiral ever appointed. How do you make sense of this? These are the authorities. This is the government. These are the people making the laws, making the decisions, implementing the laws, and enforcing the laws. That just not living in reality and just trying to make factual fiction actual reality. And we're the crazy people for saying geez, wouldn't it have been good if the first female 4-star admiral of the U.S., whatever it is, was an actual biological female? But that position has been taken forever by a biological male. That glass ceiling that women have fought for decades, over 100 years to get to, has been broken by a biological male who, in my humble opinion, did not deserve the position whatsoever. Because, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, let me just pull this out. Rachel Levine, mother, long-term care, COVID. For anybody who doesn't remember this, because it's like knowledge is a curse, memory is a curse, but even more of a curse is ignorance and not being able to remember. Health Secretary Rachel Levine's removal of mom from care home amid epidemic draws scrutiny. Oh, let's see. Published May 14, 2020. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf, Secretary of Health. Don't make fun of the way people look. Okay? I mean, people are going to do it. It's childish. I don't do it. All I'd say, if you're going to be the Secretary of Health, it helps to be healthy. It helps to, know what is a healthy lifestyle. So that one can judge for that. Don't not judge for what people look like. Judge for, a health secretary apparently not following health advice. But forget that. That's all superficial. Health Secretary Rachel Levine said Tuesday that she had removed her 95-year-old mother from a personal care home amid a statewide coronavirus outbreak that has been particularly devastating to facilities that house elderly populations. Oh, she was it's just coincidence. Pennsylvania, by the way, had a very, very bad track record as well. My mother requested, and my sister and I, as her children, comply. Oh yeah, I'm sure her mother requested, and we just had to comply. I'm sure there was no, it's first of all, it's good to have the means to be able to pull your mother out and do these things. It's good to have the freedom to do so. Move her to another location. Oh yeah, where'd you move her to? Levine said at a press conference. During the COVID outbreak, my mother is 95 years old. She is very intelligent and more than competent to make her own decisions. Oh, I'm picturing Rachel Levine's mother as like the get me out of here lady from Happy Gilmore. During COVID outbreak, when as a result of the negligence of Governor Wolf and Health Secretary Rachel Levine, people are dropping dead left, right, and center in long-term care homes. I think it's like 80% of the total deaths occurred in long-term healthcare facilities. I'm picturing Rachel Levine's mother like, get me out of here, mister. Oh yeah, I have no doubt she wanted out of there. She didn't want to die like the rest of the people that Tom Wolf failed, like the rest of the people that Rachel Levine failed. She's more than capable of making her own decisions. Oh, I have no doubt. Get me out of here. Department of Health spokeswoman April Hutchison declined to name the facility, but said the elder Levine and her children were notified of residents who tested positive and lived nearby within the personal care home. Levine was careful to note that her mother was in a personal care home, not a nursing home, and that the facility in question fell under the jurisdiction of the State Department of Human Services, not her own agency. Oh, yeah, okay. Doesn't matter. Let's hear. Nonetheless, all three types of facilities are vulnerable. According to the data, they're very bad. Levine's removal of her mother from the personal care home, which was revealed as she announced a plan to ramp up coronavirus testing in nursing homes, drew criticism from lawmakers such as New York County Republican State Rep Seth Grove, that she's done what many families are unable to do for financial and logistical reasons. Exactly. That doesn't matter. That's who Rachel Levine is on the substance. They take care of their own. It's good, rich or poor, it's good to be rich. And rich or poor, it's good to be politically privileged. So that's where we're at there. Oh, but there's more. Hold on. Got to go to my diary of the world's descent into madness. Twitter. Let's just make sure that let's make sure we've got all the stories here. Hold on. Here, boom. Okay, we're seeing the same thing. By the way, so the Darrell Brooks trial, let's just do a small update. Darrell Brooks. Apparently the trial is over. Darrell Brooks has been representing himself pro se in the Waukesha murders. Trial came to an end today because apparently Darrell Brooks has presented all the evidence that he's going to be presenting. He apparently wanted to call his mother as a witness, but his mother had not been duly subpoenaed. So she was not a compellable witness. On Friday of last week, apparently the judge said, the state didn't call his mother. Darrell Brooks wanted to call his mother, but hadn't subpoenaed her. And the judge said, look, get her to come. And he says, don't worry, I'm going to be able to get my mother to come. His mother didn't want to testify. Or we don't know whether or not she wanted to. She did not testify. So the case is declared closed, and now they're going to go into the stage of jury instructions, closing arguments, et cetera, which should start tomorrow. So there's that update. Darrell Brooks. What other update was there going on? I don't remember anyhow. But let's just go through here and get a few more of the stories before we end. Oh, that was it. That's right. Okay, this is going to be one of those stories where think before you tweet. If something looks a little too ridiculous, it probably is. This is Katy Perry, and the tweet that was going around was, she got that Pfizer eye, meaning that at first glance, some people might be inclined to think that she might have been having some form of Bell's palsy incident on stage. It's not clear if the Hodge twins, I know them, they're funny, they're insightful, whether or not they bought into this or whether or not they tweeted it as a joke. She got that Pfizer eye, and this is the video that went viral today.
Make even more noise for my band.
It definitely looks weird. I mean, look, it's very easy to take that and run with it. Then some people were coming out that's Katy Perry, by the way. I probably forgot to mention that. At a performance, looking like she's having a serious case of Bell's palsy, which everyone would immediately attribute to the Rona jibby jab. When it looks a little too absurd to be true, it probably is. So I just started looking into it. Some people were saying it was part of her show. If you read a few articles, some people were saying it's part of her show. Other people were saying she has admittedly what is known as a wonk eye or a wonky eye, which apparently is like another word for lazy eye. She's talked about it in the past. She has one eye that doesn't close, one eye that closes more than the other, and it's her right eye. And this was her right eye. So people were saying, oh, it's her wonk eye. It's her wonky eye. Others were saying part of the show. The best explanation thus far, and when we go back and read it, go back and rewatch the video, it will look like that's what it is. Where was it? Someone who said, don't be stupid. It's her fake eyelashes getting stuck, probably too much glue, nothing to see really. And when we watch that again, because some people were saying, making a joke that she's a robot. Others were saying it's Bell's palsy. Bell's palsy is not relieved by pushing on a nerve on the outside of your face. If it were a lazy eye doesn't behave like this. It seems when she was pulling the skin back to unstick the eye. That's what it looks like, and it makes total sense. It's stuck. Stretch the skin so it becomes unstuck. It got stuck again because of the fake eyelashes with glue. She doesn't look like she's having a seizure. It's up, it's open, it's unstuck, and she goes back to the show, and her eye
Make even more noise for
doesn't
my
close
band.
again, and her wonky eye does not get stuck. So, as tempting as it is sometimes, and it's always very tempting. Let's see who's possibly interested in this. I thought it was eyelashes. Called it. You get caught retweeting that as Katy Perry's got the whatever. You lose credibility, and it's just, and also it looked too outrageous to be what it was. And if it were that, it wouldn't have gone away after the show, and we would have known. So, all I'd say: be careful, tweet responsibly, and that's it. Be skeptical. Even when the information is telling you what you want to hear, that might be the time to be even more skeptical. Oh, look at this. Okay, here's another good one where we're just like, this acts of desperation. This is, is the audio here? No, I'm not going to turn the audio up. This is Lizzo endorsing Stacey Abrams. And, when you're in, maybe I overthink things, or maybe that I, think things through too much. I don't think this is the photo op that any politician wants right here. I don't think any politician wants PUSSY above their head in a photo op. I know it's good to get the support of celebrities to reach a younger crowd. I'm getting a very Hillary Clinton-ish vibe from the clothing here. You don't want the P word above your head in a photo op. First of all, that word's not necessarily a good word, even when it's in the context of women's rights. Everyone understands it, but it's not a good word to refer to a man for misogynistic reasons, or, alleged, purported misogynistic reasons. You don't want PUSSY above your head in a photo op. It's just not going to. Oh, you got the audio there. There you go. That's what you want. What's she got there? I want to hear this. Hold on. Do you think the crowd even knows who she is? Does the crowd even know who Stacey Abrams is? My Body, My Choice is better than PUSSY.
I got the big microphone.
I got the big microphone.
Look, I'm not going to interrupt your fun. I just want to remind you that you believe it's my body and my choice. I need your vote. You better show up. This is our choice. And this is our year. I need your big energy. Let's get it done.
Oh. Okay. Anyhow, that's what's Oh, this is great. Yeah, it's great. This is just these are my notes. Here's another one. Sorry. Listen to this. There's nothing better than, when I say Joe Biden doesn't necessarily understand the words that are in the question he's being asked. Easy way to get around that. Don't wait for the person to finish the question. Listen to this. And by the way, look at the woman's face asking the question. Her demeanor as it changes when you watch. If you haven't seen this,
do you support a federal fund for individuals like myself who need to take time off work, obtain child care?
The answer is absolutely. But guess what? We need the same votes we need to overrule to reinstate the decision that was struck down by the court.
Judge him by his actions, people.
I mean, I do support that. And I've publicly urged companies to do that. I've urged them publicly as President of the United States, saying, this is what you should be doing. I urge you to do it.
Do you support a federal fund for individuals like myself
just
who need
watch
to
her
take
face.
time off work,
watch her face.
obtain child care?
Right now.
The answer is absolutely.
Like,
but
you don't
what?
get enough of it. But when you watch it without the audio, it becomes even more clear. Can you imagine, by the way, she's asking Joe Biden about health care and maternity leave. Let me just get out of here. She's asking Joe Biden about health care and maternity leave, and his answer goes to abortion. Can you imagine what that, can you imagine what that must feel like? She gets cut off and is already stunned, and her question about childcare and maternity leave turns into Joe Biden stumping for abortion. I mean, it looked like she couldn't even believe what was going on. Watch it without any audio. Well, let me just, watch without audio. You can see exactly when that, right? Oh, of course I did. Oh, what's it? You're talking about taking care of your born child and rights for women who have given birth. Let me dovetail this back into, let me segue this back into abortion. That would certainly solve the problem. I mean, thinking about Stacey Abrams came out the other day and said, abortion would also solve inflation problems. Other people, abortion will solve the cost of living problems. It'll solve everything. It'll solve everything except for the things that people want and that they're concerned about. Maternity leave, which I come from Canada, it should be a thing. It should be. I'm sort of shocked at how little there is by way of maternity leave, not just paid maternity leave, but not even necessarily having a job when you get back. And I've seen it in family and friends. Lactating, breastfeeding mothers being forced to go back to work at the risk of losing their job. I mean, okay, this woman asked a question about that. How do we make sure that women get maternity leave and that they have proper childcare once they've given birth? Joe Biden's answer, I guess at least he didn't sniff her hair. Let's get back to abortion. That'll solve the problem. And Abrams says it will, it'll deal with inflation. And from what I understand, by the way, in Canada, let me just see if I can find this article. Expanding euthanasia in Canada. Euthanasia. I think there was discussion out Canada youth. Let me see this here. There's a discussion as whether or not Canada, when it expands its euthanasia laws to include the mentally ill, whether or not there's going to be an expansion, to minors. There's concern about that. Well, let's get back here. Oh, I don't want to see that. That looks weird. So I think we're nearing the end of the internet for the day. Oh man, it all seems to happen at once. And I mean, there are no words. The outlook, the prognosis. If things don't change, it's not good. Things have to change. They have to change quickly. At the very least, the white pill of the day, I guess, is that the emergency press conference is not about imminent nuclear war with Russia. It's not about sending troops to fight World War III. It's about it sounded like IP, some indictments against Chinese spies. Yeah, not as bad as it could have been. Not as bad as it could have been. I do want to finish off on one reminder. I want to finish off on one reminder. Do you all remember when Nuland talked about chemical weapons in the Ukraine? Biological research facilities. Have we got the video? Here we go.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities.
Wordsmiths of the devil.
In fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is
classic Russian propaganda
technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
It's classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what you're prepared to do yourself.
Technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Some might say that sounds exactly like what Nuland is doing right there. Outrageous. So everybody, midterms are coming up. Is Garland still speaking? Garland, they're not still speaking on Garland, right? I'm going to read some chats in Rumble. My mom is in the hospital in a coma. They still don't know what kind of stroke she had. The doctor is already asking us to sign some do not reanimate papers. Neat scholar. Very sorry to hear that. What else we got? Mama Sari says, USA supplies Ukraine with all the bioweapons they want or can develop, but Trump said it's China, and we are going to war with China so we can blame Trump for Ukraine. Like people, I mean, the wordsmithing of that question. Do they have, what did what's his name, Rubio say? Do they have biological weapons? Ukraine has biological facilities. And it's so dangerous that we're worried that if it falls into the hands of the Russians, they don't have biological weapons. They have biological facilities. And then it came out, that the USA has been funding directly or indirectly, providing trading, assistance, etc., directly or indirectly. And then it's classic Russian technique to, what does she say? To blame others for what they're doing. As she blames Russia and predicts what Russia's going to do with 100% certainty of an event that has not yet happened. These are the people who are governing us. I guess the silver lining is that on a Monday afternoon, thousands of people are watching and learning and getting aware, getting awake, not woke, and informing themselves so they can inform others, and that change can be had at a grassroots and a political level. It takes a long time for big ships to right themselves. And we just have to make sure that the ship doesn't teeter or just go right into the iceberg before it can change directions. P. Moyer says, just joined. Why does work have to intrude on my ability to watch this stream? Pasha or Moyer, nice to see you again. Let's see what we got. Oh, yeah. So she's saying that the Russians cry out as they. Well, okay, I think I know that the origins of that expression are not good origins, but the idea is, someone who pretends to be the victim while they victimize you, like Chrystia Freeland saying, "How can they say such nasty words to me as I freeze bank accounts and destroy the very fabric of Canadian society?" That's it. All right, go. Oh no, there was one more. Was there one more thing that I wanted to address today? We'll do it tomorrow. Everybody, as we're streaming now, let me just go to Rumble. As we're streaming now, for anybody who wants to go and listen to the Emergencies Act hearings, the Emergencies Act inquiry. It's 1,200 people are watching that. That's great. And the update on that: government's incompetent. It's one person pointing the finger at the other. The government, at the very least, confirming the highlight of the day, that this protest was massive, bigger than anything they'd ever seen, planned on seeing, gained grassroots support as it went across the country, which is a far cry from Justin Trudeau's small fringe minority holding unacceptable views. In the protesters were retired police, retired professionals. It was not a small fringe minority of people holding unacceptable views. It was actually bigger than anything they could have anticipated. Peaceful. I mean, Steve Bell, the guy who's testifying now for the police. Someone says the EA inquiry is a joke. It's actually worse than a joke. It's an insult. This officer continually refers to it as an occupation, that there was violence, intimidation, harassment by the protesters. Bull crap. But at the very least, the truth will come to light. Buddha said 3 things cannot long be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. But listening to these police officers try to characterize it as an occupation, violent assault, harassment, whatever, so they could justify their draconian response. It's insults to injury. But what else was there in the chat? Let me see. Bull crap, shut the front door. Sorry, that's what I was going to do. Here's the link for anybody who wants to go watch it now. Mosey on over. I'll be popping in and out. It's 3 o'clock. I got a late start today. I was rewatching the Menendez trial live with Alida on her channel, Legal Bites. That brings back some memories. I was 13 years old when the Menendez brothers trial happened, and it's funny. You watch everything anew, brings back memories, and you also watch it with like the experience that we've gotten since watching trials live now. It's very interesting. Dark Side of the Moon is fishy though, says Hooch. Nature Freedom Lover says, I love that case. I don't have the stomach for these things. Learning the details. I mean, the opening statements, the prosecution goes over how the Menendez brothers killed their parents. And, and then it seems that since the conviction, other family members might have substantiated some of the justification, some of the allegations that the brothers raised in their defense for mistreatment by their parents, to put it mildly. Peace, Viva, God bless. Thank you very much. DJ Color Zone. And Robe says, oh my God, there was a docudrama about that several years ago. It's funny, like you've forgotten all about it. It's like, okay. So with that said, people, go watch it. Thank you all. Thank my sponsors, Home Title Lock, Field of Greens. I'm going to go do the Field of Greens now. I should not have done the Red Bull, but I'm a weak man. Plus, and I had one in the fridge. But no, Field of Greens, if you want your desiccated daily dose of vegetables, fieldofgreens.com. It brings you to Brickhouse Nutrition website. But fieldofgreens.com. Promo code VIVA, 15% off your first order, 10% off a subscription. If you own property, $19.95 a month for peace of mind, Home Title Lock. Promo code VIVA. You get the free $100 verification assessment of your title. It's well worth it, and I do it. So links are going to be in the pinned comment. Thank you, Grifters, says Richard Fitzwell. Cheers, everyone. Have a good day. Bye from Sefradin Squid. Robbie, later. Have a good evening. We'll be live tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday. I'm going to try to get Dr. Martin. Dr. Campbell. I keep getting mixed up. I'm going to try to get Dr. Campbell. Or Dr. McCullough, but I'm going to try to get another doctor. We've had Dr. Hirsch, we've had Dr. Christian. I'm going to try to get them on so we can talk about it, because people need to start talking about it. 18-year-old kids having heart attacks, massive cardiac arrests, and the journalists don't even do their job, because there is a social media footprint to get answers to these questions. Godspeed, you fringe artists. That's from Joey Meatballs. All right, go. I've got to end with a video here. Hold on one second. I've got to end with something so that I don't get cut off. So let's get something. It's going to be a fishing video. Viva Frei fishing. Which one's it going to be? The drone bass fishing, the pike, my fish story. Let's go with let's go with my fish story. I was watching that one yesterday. Got very nostalgic to the point of tears. And it's got some good pictures of Viva throughout a decade. Here we go, everyone. My fish story. Enjoy the day and see you tomorrow. You are looking at the face of the happiest person on the planet Earth. A person who just experienced something so great, it can barely be put into words. But I will do my best. This is my fish story, and it is 100% true. For those of you who don't know me, I like fishing. A lot. I will fish all the time, anytime, and I especially love fishing with my family. I love fishing so much that the folks at Len Thompson actually made me a custom lure. But that's not where this story starts. This story starts in British Columbia 2004 with my girlfriend and now wife, Marion. Look at how young we were. We've done a lot since then, such as had one of these, had another one of those. We have 3 in total now. And we can't forget about these. But this story starts well before any of this. It starts in the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia, back when we actually had maps made out of paper. And photographs made out of photo paper. The trip out west was a life-changing experience. It is impossible to grasp the beauty of the Rocky Mountains until you've seen them, smelt them, felt them. It was the first time I ever had a moment of clarity. We woke up one morning and took a roadside hike to the top of a mountain where we stared down a glacial divide, and I for the first time knew what it meant to feel like I was part of the cosmos. That afternoon, we pitched our tent by a creek near Mount Robson. I cast my line into the waters, and on my first cast, hooked a monster so big I thought it was a beaver. After a brief fight, it snapped the line and disappeared into the water, and I was heartbroken. I was determined to find that fish. I took my shirt off, jumped in the water. Marion looked at me like I was an absolute madman, and I saw it sitting under a rock. I grabbed it by the tail, hauled it out of the water, put it on the picnic table, carefully removed the hook, snapped this unbelievable photo that if I didn't have it, I would never be able to remember this moment as clearly as I do every time I look at it. Took the picture, put the fish in the water, it disappeared. Look at that face. That is the face of someone who just experienced something. Look at those shoes and pants. Oh my. And that is my fish story, and I'm sticking to it. Peace out.